The misfortune of your birth, Harriet, ought to make you particularly careful as to your associates.
Know you the Martins, Miss Woodhouse?
The Martins are of precisely the order of people with whom I feel I can have nothing to do. A degree or two lower might interest me. If they were very poor, I might hope to be useful to them in some way, but a farmer can need none of my help, and is therefore as much above my notice as he is below it.
Autumn de Wilde's 2020 adaptation of Emma is breathtakingly beautiful. The movie is not only a visual masterpiece, it has character and stands out as one of the most stunning Jane Austen adaptations of recent years. Although many critique the film for straying from the novel's original tone and story, it still masterfully captures the essence of Austen's wit, coupling it with de Wilde's incredibly refreshing touch. This adaptation introduces us to Emma, full of elegance and arrogance, her character softened by Mr. Knightley's critiques. These relationships unfold beautifully against the film's artful use of colors and costumes, where Emma's vivid and varied wardrobe emphasizes her status and contrasts sharply with the simpler attires of those around her, highlighting the class divisions of Regency England. The film's pacing, its captivating score, and its moments of raw humor blend to create a world that is as refined as it is delightfully unpredictable. Emma is an underrated masterpiece lost to the pandemic and the quarantine, brilliantly capturing Austen's ingenuity and some of the richness of her characters, making it a perfect escape into a world where beauty and humor come together seamlessly, leaving a lasting impression.
Tell me at once. I cannot make speeches, but if I loved you less, then I might be able to talk about it more.
Though the book opens by outlining Emma's very privileged background as she is the youngest daughter of a rich landlord, it quickly becomes apparent that some of her life experiences have deeply shaped her attention to appearances as well as her love of matchmaking.
Your plans for Harriet are best known only to yourself. But as you make no secret of your love of matchmaking, it is fair to suppose that plans you have.
Although Emma Woodhouse had a comfortable home and happy disposition, having lived nearly 21 years old in the world with very little to distress or vex her, the loss of her mother at around 5 years old has evidently nurtured the codependent relationship she shares with her father, which is evident at the beginning of the movie. Given her sister Isabella's departure after getting married, Emma finds herself essentially taking over a matriarchal role in the household, managing Hartfield, their family estate, as her mother would have done. Her father encourages this by begging her never to leave him and never to marry, reflecting his own deep attachment to his daughters and a certain fear of abandonment.
Papa!
I wish she would not leave. You must never leave me, Emma.
Papa, you know I never could.
This fear seems to stem from the heartbreak he experienced after losing his wife, a loss he seemingly has never fully processed. Indeed, though his antics are humorous at times, they reveal a man who has yet to fully grieve the mother of his children, illustrated by his comments about marriage, which he somewhat unwillingly passed on to his youngest daughter.
Whatever you say always comes to pass. You must not make any more.
I promise to make none for myself, Papa.
Convinced that she must remain with her father, Emma persuades herself that she does not want to marry, even though her feelings for Mr. Churchill and later Mr. Knightley suggest otherwise. In a desperate attempt to exert control over her life, Emma clings to the appearance of being the perfect upper-class young lady. Her polished exterior, seen in her elegant manners, reflects a desire to maintain control over how she is perceived by those around her. This extends even to her closest relationships, particularly with Mr. Knightley, whose approval she seems to constantly seek, partly because of his eagerness to criticize her.
Mr. Woodhouse, your daughter's gifts are without compare. Bear witness.
You've made her too tall, Emma.
This dynamic is evident when Emma, seeing him approach their residence, rushes to the piano to maintain the illusion of poise and diligence even in front of someone with whom she is ostensibly comfortable. Even when accompanied by Harriet, Emma makes sure to maintain this carefully constructed persona as seen during the tea scene. Emma embodies the image of a well-mannered, poised lady befitting her social background, with impeccable posture and graceful tea-drinking manners. Conversely, Harriet, with her clumsy demeanor, lack of refinement, and overall naivete, serves as the perfect foil to her polished friend. While Emma pours tea with practiced composure, Harriet watches intently, fumbling briefly with a sweet before shakily drinking her tea and clumsily setting it down. In my opinion, this scene truly sets the tone for their friendship. Emma as a teacher of sorts, and Harriet as her student, who looks up to her and believes her to do almost no wrong.
Miss Smith knows nothing about herself and looks upon Emma as knowing everything. Her ignorance is hourly flattery.
Emma in turn projects her own desires and social status onto Harriet, believing that she is guiding her towards a better future. She assumes it's natural for a girl like her to marry someone of equal or higher rank, but for Harriet this is not so simple. Although Emma's intentions are not malicious, as she genuinely wants what's best for her friend, her attempts to match Harriet with Elton, who is of higher status, risk sabotaging her friend's chance at true love and happiness. Jane Austen herself anticipated that many readers would dislike Emma, famously stating, "I am going to take a heroine whom no one but myself will much like." To this day, Emma is often considered one of Austen's less likable characters, and much of this perception stems from her quote-unquote mean girl tendencies, which are deeply rooted in her elitism. These traits, while reflective of her upbringing and social status, complicate her relationships and make her both frustrating and humane as a protagonist. Throughout the movie, we see Emma's polished exterior crack in moments that reveal her more vulnerable and somewhat flawed self. Much like her interactions with Miss Bates, Emma's mask slips on various occasions, especially when she's alone or arguing with Knightley. One memorable instance is the chimney scene, where Emma lets her guard down after the house staff leaves, a brief but comical moment that stands out amid her typically composed demeanor. However, I believe that it is especially in her conflicts with Knightley that the audience gets to witness this part of Emma. Their first argument over Harriet's refusal of Robert Martin's proposal is especially telling. Knightley urges her not to ruin what he thinks is her friend's best chance at marriage. Emma, undeterred, believes Harriet's kindness and beauty will secure her a better match. This is something that Emma, as a woman of the time, knows is paramount for man, to the point where it unfortunately triumphs over said woman's intelligence. While she may understand the importance of intelligence, she, like many in her time, also recognizes that it's beauty that society values most in women, something that Knightley seems to overlook at the time. Thus, though she holds certain expectations about people's social status, she is distraught when others apply these same standards to her friend.
I never thought of Miss Smith in the whole course of my existence. Never paid her any attentions, but as your friend, Miss Woodhouse. Well, who can think of Miss Smith when Miss Woodhouse is near?
This is also evident when Mr. Elton confesses his indifference toward Harriet, dismissing her as unsuitable due to her lower status, something that Emma herself did when Robert Martin proposed to her friend. Emma's selective use of class and distinction reveals her complicated relationship with social hierarchy. She values her status and its privileges, yet she resents it when others measure her loved ones by those same standards, highlighting her complex, often hypocritical relationship with said hierarchy. Finally, Emma's perfect facade is completely shattered and tainted at the end of the movie with Knightley's confession and her subsequent nosebleed. All of these emotions, bottled up for so long despite Emma's efforts to suppress them, come spilling out during Knightley's confession. The nosebleed then isn't merely a physical inconvenience, it is the final unraveling of Emma's delicate self-control, a reminder that even those as seemingly flawless as Emma make mistakes and can learn from them. Emma finally realizes that no matter how polished she's made her life seem, it will always be shaped by moments of imperfection and growth. By letting go of her need to appear perfect, Emma becomes authentic, embracing both her vulnerability and the depth of her feelings.
Will you marry me?
I cannot.
Why not?
Harriet! You danced with her and shown her kindness and took notice of her at Donwell and spoke of farming.
Though I briefly discussed their diverging personalities, I believe that Emma and Harriet's friendship is one of the most beautiful parts of this movie. This might be controversial, but these two's friendship is the best thing since Lottie and Tiana, thanks to Austen and de Wilde's both determined not to pit two women against each other. Though Emma is often unkind and deeply flawed throughout the movie, and her friendship with Harriet, frequently imposing her views and perspectives on her, we never see the two girls really competing against each other. This dynamic is as refreshing to witness now at 21 years old while watching Emma as it was at 6 years old watching The Princess and the Frog. When it comes to Harriet, there is no doubt about Emma's good intentions and love for the girl, even acting in ways that she usually wouldn't. Indeed, after the whole Elton debacle and his rejection of Harriet in favor of Emma, she not only feels incredibly responsible for putting her friend in this predicament and misreading the situation with Elton, she even goes as far as apologizing, which is not something she seems used to be doing unless prompted to. Emma truly seems to love Harriet, whether it be platonic or not, and is wholeheartedly dedicating herself to finding the perfect partner for her. Conversely, while she could be upset at Emma for the situation with Elton, Harriet reassures her friend, telling her that she does not blame her at all for it.
He never loved me.
Harriet, you might never have thought of him but for me.
I do not blame you, Miss Woodhouse.
and none but so partial and kind a friend as you could even have thought it possible.
Harriet's sudden feelings for Mr. Knightley is what makes me genuinely believe that Emma is not a complete mean girl, but rather a spoiled and misunderstood character. Indeed, when Harriet tells Emma that she likes Knightley and not Churchill, she's taken aback for sure, but is ready to refuse Knightley as to not betray her friend once again after the Robert Martin situation. While a mean girl per se may disregard her friend's feelings and perhaps keep pursuing Knightley, Emma gets visibly upset at him when he confesses and even tells him that she does not want to hear about his feelings for her because of Harriet. Even though Harriet, during her argument with Emma, admits being upset with her friend and rightfully so blaming her for losing Robert Martin, the two girls are not necessarily, in my opinion, seeing each other as competing for Knightley's affection.
I refuse Mr. Martin because of you. Because
Harriet.
In fact, Emma openly apologizes to Harriet and actively tries to right her wrongs by refusing Knightley and going up to Robert Martin. Though she later realizes her feelings for Knightley, she is grateful to Knightley for dancing with Harriet after Elton rejected and humiliated her. Indeed, she goes to Knightley and thanks him for his kindness towards Harriet, illustrating how much of a genuine friend she is to her, having no animosity and jealousy regarding Harriet. I believe that Emma truly does love Harriet. She admits wanting to keep Harriet to herself, even telling her she would keep her friend's portrait if she doesn't want it.
I cannot see it without thinking of him.
Burn the frame if you like, but you must keep the likeness. Then I will take it. I will take it, and I will treasure it as a picture of my friend.
Emma, as flawed and insufferable as she may be at times, seems to be as enthralled by Harriet as she is by Knightley, creating a rather interesting dynamic. Mr. Knightley and Emma's love story embodies everything we adore about Austen and period dramas at large, the perfect balance of angst and yearning that seems so rare in their modern counterparts. Knightley is the quintessential Austenian hero, not a man of grand sweeping gestures, but one of quiet integrity and deep affection whose actions speak louder than words, such as when he steps in to dance with Harriet after she is cruelly left alone. It's a subtle act of kindness, not done to look more impressive or to win admiration, but one that highlights his empathy. Unlike others in Emma's life, Knightley never flatters her. He is consistently honest, though often harsh, calling her out when necessary, like during their exchange at the Box Hill picnic.
How could you be so unfeeling to Miss Bates?
This honesty and integrity makes him a crucial force in Emma's growth. She seeks his approval, even though she would never admit it, and it's through his guidance that she learns to temper her clumsiness and occasionally unkind ways. Knightley is harsh with her when she insults Miss Bates, but his critiques are necessary.
How could you be so insolent to a woman of her character and age and situation?
You must allow that what is good and what is ridiculous are most unfortunately blended in her.
They are blended in her, and were she a woman of fortune, I would not quarrel with you for any liberties of manner, but she is poor. She has seen you grow
too
up
hot.
from when her notice
And
of
I'm
you was
tired.
an honour, to have you now, in thoughtless spirit, laugh at her and humble her, and before her niece, and before others, many of whom are entirely guided by your treatment of her. It was badly done indeed.
This moment of accountability forces Emma to reflect on her behavior, leading her to make amends with a heartfelt gesture. Even when she brings Miss Bates the basket, the older lady is kind to Emma, though the Woodhouse's youngest daughter greatly disrespected and hurt her.
So very kind. But you are always kind, Miss Woodhouse.
I believe that this earnest and sincere forgiveness coupled with Knightley's disapproval remain with Emma until the very end of the movie. She may feel she does not deserve this warmth and grace from Miss Bates, which eventually leads her to grow, as can be seen following Knightley's confession, where Emma, without being prompted to, recognizes that she must be the one to go and apologize, as well as rekindle the relationship between Harriet and Robert Martin.
I shall call on Robert Martin this very evening. I shall urge him to put his suit to Miss Smith a second time. He still loves her. I'm certain that he does. He need only ask again.
Oh, no. No, I must do it. I must go.
In contrast, Frank Churchill serves as a foil to Knightley. Rather than encourage Emma's better nature, which does exist even though some may doubt it, he enables her worst impulses. At the picnic, for example, he fuels her tendency to gossip and criticize, ultimately leading to Miss Batesgate.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am ordered by Miss Woodhouse to say she demands either one thing very clever, or two things moderately clever, or three things very dull indeed.
3 things very dull indeed. I shall be sure to say 3 dull things as soon as I open my mouth.
Ah, Mum, but there is the difficulty. When have you ever stopped at 3?
Though this moment is entirely Emma's own doing, a result of her own lack of decorum, it is important not to overlook Mr. Churchill's role in Emma's quasi-undoing at Box Hill. When the picnic goers show reluctance to share their thoughts, Churchill claims that Emma wants them to entertain her. While this may not seem particularly consequential, it certainly adds to Emma's image of being haughty. When Emma thoughtlessly insults Miss Bates and everyone goes their separate ways, Churchill escapes the consequences entirely. Instead, he leaves Emma in the predicament he helped create, reclining idly to eat his apricot. His bad influence on Emma is further exemplified in his treatment of Jane Fairfax. Despite being secretly engaged to her at the time, he mocks Jane's hairdo with Emma, a behavior indicative of his immaturity and a lack of principle.
She has done her hair in so odd a way I never saw anything like it.
Where Churchill exacerbates her flaws, Knightley patiently guides her towards growth and self-awareness, proving himself to be the true partner Emma deserves. While Churchill's immaturity and self-interest leave Emma vulnerable and misguided, Knightley's influence provides a steady anchor, steadily steering her towards self-reflection and growth. Knightley does not only criticize Emma, however, though he is sometimes quite negative with her in a way few women would accept, as he recognizes during his confession, he is also able to recognize when Emma is right and gives her flowers as he did during the dance scene, praising her for her influence on and friendship with Harriet, telling her that they do each other credit.
I was completely mistaken in Mr. Elton. There is a littleness about him which you discovered and I did not.
You would have chosen for him better than he has chosen for himself. She does you credit, Emma, as you do her.
Their longing for each other, however, is most palpable during the dance scene. Indeed, as Joe Wright did when directing the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, the tension between the two protagonists is observed mostly in their hands. They seemingly break societal norms by dancing without gloves, a highly improper act at the time, but one that no one in the dance hall seemed to bat an eye at. This not only underscores their growing attraction to one another, but also their familiarity, which the rest of Highbury seems to be privy to and does not disapprove of, probably because they, wrongly so, perceive them as having a very platonic, almost sibling-like relationship. I believe that Knightley and Emma's attraction for each other is so beautifully portrayed in this movie, whether in the smallest subtleties or the most evident moments. Their awkward stance and Knightley's stammering when Churchill asks him what he is doing at Hartfield not only creates a delightfully humorous scene, but also reveals Knightley's longing to be near Emma, his unspoken feelings pressing at the edges of his restraint.
What is your purpose here?
My carriage, my horse through a shoe.
You took your carriage to the ball?
Yes.
Say nothing more. Do not go! Mr. Churchill. Please.
His seeming intention to confess, thwarted by Harriet and Churchill's untimely arrival, becomes even more poignant. Another moment far less subtle but no less moving is the strawberry scene, where Knightley unabashedly gazes at her, completely captivated, his admiration plainly written on his face. In Knightley, we find a man of strength, unwavering moral compass, and a love so profound it transforms both himself and Emma. His feelings are not conveyed through grand gestures, but through his steady presence, unflinching honesty, and his gentle guidance that helps Emma become her best self. Together, their love story unfolds as a masterpiece of longing, vulnerability, and ultimate fulfillment, embodying everything we cherish in Jane Austen's timeless tales. While Knightley challenges Emma to grow, Mr. Woodhouse provides her a safe haven, indulging her whims with a tenderness born of his deep love for her. His unwavering affection reflects a different but equally significant form of love in Emma's life, one rooted in comfort and familiarity. Emma's relationship with her father is heartwarming to see in a period drama, especially knowing that at the time, sons were preferred to continue the family lineage, which he would be unable to do through his two daughters. Though he is flawed like his daughter, verging on eccentric and definitely a huge hypochondriac, Mr. Woodhouse brings a lot of light and humor into the movie, such as the scene with Mr. Elton at the beginning with "man's great innocence" line.
Of man's great innocence.
Innocence? Innocence? No?
I believe he may dote and spoils his daughters partly out of fear, or maybe even misplaced guilt of them not having a mother growing up. This in part may explain his seemingly lack of reprimand towards Emma when she comes back from the picnic and is sitting on the windowsill.
I have been unpardonably vain and insufferably arrogant.
The viewers see Mr. Woodhouse's usual eccentric manners and humorous ways fade away when he sees his youngest daughter crying, seemingly to hurt right along with her, unable to help ease her pain after she realizes her mistake and is lectured by Mr. Knightley. He doesn't blame his daughter, though it would be warranted, as he thinks of her in the highest regards and what matters to him is her happiness.
How did you find them? Emma has been to call on Mrs. and Miss Bates, Mr. Knightley. She is always so attentive to them.
Mr. Woodhouse's hypochondriac tendencies are reflected in his daily visits with his doctor and his constant impression of feeling a certain draft wafting through the room even when it isn't the case.
Do you feel a draft, Mr. Knightley? About the knees?
I cannot say that I do, sir.
Ah. I see.
This seems to have no effect on Emma, who, when remarked by Harriet, who is worried about Mr. Woodhouse's health, tells her that it is normal for her father to always see his doctor on a frequent basis.
I do hope Mr. Woodhouse is not ill.
Oh, Papa sees Mr. Perry every day.
Meanwhile, Emma's sister very obviously inherited her father's health anxiety, but hers is projected onto her children as seen in the scene where she snatches little Emma from our protagonist after the infant throws up in her aunt's arms, creating an incredible frenzy in the room as the young mother hurries out looking for the nurse for something that is evidently inconsequential. Though he seems clueless at times, often lost in his books and eccentricity, I believe that he deliberately complains of a draft at the end of the movie to Knightley in an effort to bring some privacy to the two young lovers, leading to their kiss. Though I may have wrongly interpreted this scene, Mr. Woodhouse's love for his daughters is undeniable all throughout the movie. The movie's use of colors is another memorable aspect of it. Compared to many period dramas and especially Austen adaptations, Alexander Bryan, Emma's costume designer, brings in colors, bonnets, and fun jewelry to Emma's closet. Indeed, throughout the movie we see Emma harboring pastels and light colors which slowly merge into darker shades, both as a reflection of the passing seasons and, in my opinion, Emma's growth and maturity. Compared to Harriet or even Jane Fairfax, both around her age, Emma wears a lot of colors and fun designs. Harriet and Jane, from poorer backgrounds, wear more muted, less intricate clothing. For instance, though the red is quite vibrant, Harriet's cardinal cloak is much less intricate than Emma's garment, which is a regal blue lined with fur, further demonstrating the stark differences between the two girls' social and financial standing. Emma, being the sometimes overbearing but nonetheless good friend that she is to Harriet, seems to lend her friend some of her outfits and helps her improve her style when they are at the shop together towards the beginning of the movie, for instance.
Miss Woodhouse, which do you prefer?
They are practically identical.
But the light.
The dark, then.
The light is a good deal prettier.
Indeed, when they are visiting Donwell Abbey, Knightley's estate, we not only see Harriet wearing a hat with similarly intricate details as Emma's, the two girls also seem to be matching, wearing a similar white muslin slip over colored underdresses, something that, according to Willow and Thatch's blog, was quite popular back in Regency England. This is contrasted with Jane Fairfax's more modest-looking, somewhat more plain attire for that event, indicating the lesser allowance she may have access to for her wardrobe compared to the Woodhouses. The link between Emma's wardrobe and her maturity level is also somewhat illustrated with her sister Isabella. While Isabella, who has the same exact background as Emma and is married to a seemingly financially comfortable man, wears darker tones and silks in all the scenes she's seen in, her younger sister reaches for flowy white clothes, loving her pinks and light blues as well as lace and intricate embroidery to punctuate her frivolity and love of the latest trends. I saw the contrast between the two sisters as being a mark of their standing in life. While Isabella, being a mother, has clothing that reflects her new responsibilities and maturity, Emma's lighter muslins and more fun designs reflect her youth and innocence. Emma's first darker and more conservative dress is seen when her sister comes to visit them at Hartfield, where we see Emma holding her niece and sitting next to Knightley, wearing a much darker evening gown contrasting with her usual color palette. Finally, Brian's use of accessories and jewelry on Emma represents one of my favorite aspects of the movie. We see Emma, as well as many of the other Highbury residents like Augusta, Miss Bates, and even Harriet, wear intricate bonnets adorned with colorful flowers, ribbons, and plumes. Evidently, Emma's collection is quite varied and more intricate than that of, say, Miss Bates, once again indicating their class differences. The hat she pairs with her blue fur-lined pelisse during winter is one of her most beautiful look, combining practicality with grace. Emma is also often seen wearing a cross necklace, which many have attributed to Austen, stating that the author wore a very similar cross. Brian perhaps added it to show the affection that Austen had in regards to Emma, whom she knew would be misunderstood, something that she might have found relatable to her own life. Another aspect of the movie I truly appreciated, which I believe was mentioned in Mina's video, is the rare focus we get on men getting dressed, a detail we don't often see in period dramas. Typically, these type of movies emphasize women struggling with corsets or layers of restrictive clothing, drawing attention to to the physical constraints of their attire.
You have not moved an inch in 6 hours.
I am forced into a ludicrous gown, so stylish that if I move too much, I might be sliced and stabbed to death by my undergarments. Oh, how joyful it is to be a lady.
In contrast, Autumn de Wilde chooses to show Emma almost exclusively when she is already fully dressed or preparing for bed. We rarely see her navigating the many layers of clothing that she probably wears while moving through Highbury. On the other hand, Mr. Knightley is shown being dressed by his staff, offering a rare glimpse into the intricate fashion of the time. This is emphasized in a scene at his estate where, shedding his layers one by one, he lies flat on the floor staring at the ceiling as he processes his feelings for Emma. The subtle reversal of typical period drama tropes feels rather fresh to me. Overall, the costumes in Emma are not only impressively accurate to the Regency era, but also offers a refreshing perspective rarely seen in similar adaptations. Brian's designs highlight the vibrant colors, playful patterns, and intricate accessories that are often overlooked in period films. This approach brings life to the era, showcasing a side of Regency fashion that is far from the muted tones and rigid silhouettes commonly portrayed in other adaptations. Emma's personality and social status are woven into every detail of her wardrobe, which often contrasts, though never clashes, with the more subdued attire of the other residents of Highbury. Even though I may not be an expert of the fashion of the period, this movie serves as a brilliant reminder that Regency England embraced colorful, whimsical, and elegant clothing, dispelling the notion that the era was defined solely by austere styles and restrained palettes. Another thing I truly appreciate about this movie is its musical score and wide shots. Other than Emma's own pastel palette when it comes to her wardrobe, we see a lot of colors throughout the movie, which is quite different from other Austenian adaptations. Take for instance Keira Knightley's 2005 Pride and Prejudice adaptation. Though it is undoubtedly my personal favorite, it is nowhere near as colorful as Emma. The latter is brimming with colors, whether it be on the characters' wardrobes or the estates they inhabit. Indeed, every place the audience's eye lands, they're provided with a serene yet vibrant color palette. Moreover, the wide shots of the estates and the scenes where Emma is seen walking to her garden at the crack of dawn to retrieve flowers for Miss Taylor both evoke a certain nostalgia and desire to be part of the movie. Scenes such as Harriet and the other boarding school girls walking around Highbury in their red cloaks bring vitality to the movie. Their movements are hurried and somewhat remind me that of Little Ducks, their playfulness punctuated with a musical score that was perfectly tailored to the movie. I believe that Emma's soundtrack is one of the best uses of music since Sufjan Stevens' work for Call Me By Your Name, which to this day remains one of the most beautiful soundtracks in my opinion, making you feel like you're in the heart of the Italian countryside. Emma's soundtrack does the same, bringing vitality to its characters, such as when Emma is walking towards the boarding school to find Harriet and the girls are seen behind her scurrying off. The music, when Emma is shown, is meant to be grand and it subsides into an almost playful tone when the shot changes to show the girls in their red cloaks. Though music certainly gives the movie its character, the film also masterfully uses moments of silence and calm as precursors to sudden bursts of chaos, which both keeps the viewer engaged and is reflective of Emma's own tumultuous thought process. This happens, for instance, in the scene where Emma holds her infant niece, a quiet and tender moment that sharply contrasts with the ensuing upheaval.
What is the matter? Is there fever? I do not know. Where is the nurse?
Send for Perry.
This chaos, originating from a rather silent scene, is also observed during Elton's confession to Emma in the chariot. Though not entirely silent, the scene begins with an air of uncomfortable stillness as the carriage moves through the snowy night.
I must avail myself of this precious opportunity to declare sentiments which
Mr.
must be
Elton,
already
please,
well known.
you've drunk too much wine.
Ardent attachment.
Any message you have to Miss Smith, I shall be happy to deliver.
Who can think of Miss Smith when Miss Woodhouse is near?
You are entirely mistaken, sir. I have no thoughts of matrimony at present.
Driver, stop the carriage.
Mr. Elton, please.
Driver, stop the carriage!
Emma's visible discomfort mirrors what the viewers probably feel: confusion, shock, and surprisingly little fear. Indeed, her composure in the face of Elton's temper tantrum is admirable. Elton's erratic behavior teeters on the edge of threatening, but he stops short of anything overtly ungentlemanly, leaving Emma and the audience both relieved and unnerved. Similarly, Jane Fairfax's quiet yet disruptive presence introduces a different kind of chaos into Emma's psyche. Jane begins playing the piano just as Harriet mentions that no one can rival Emma's talents.
Nobody in the world plays like you.
The timing is almost symbolic as Jane's skill eclipses Emma's, reflecting the latter's insecurities. Knightley's subtle critique of Emma, stating that Jane is perhaps the accomplished woman that you wish to be thought of yourself, cuts deeper, further fueling Emma's resentment.
Everybody supposes we must be so fond of each other because we are the same age. She, who is so accomplished and so superior.
She is certainly accomplished.
Perhaps the accomplished young woman you wish to be thought yourself.
Jane embodies what Emma aspires to be but cannot fully achieve because of the lack of adversity she's experienced compared to Miss Fairfax, creating an undercurrent of tension that disrupts Emma's otherwise confident outlook. Finally, the movie's symmetry is beautifully highlighted through the parallel events that open and close the story, the weddings of Miss Taylor and Miss Woodhouse. The film begins with Emma, spoiled and flawed, walking through Hartfield to gather flowers as a farewell gesture for Miss Taylor before attending her wedding. This opening sequence mirrors the film's conclusion, where Emma prepares for her own wedding, signaling her personal growth and transformation. Even the opening song is echoed at the end. It plays as Emma awakens at the start and again as she closes her eyes before her vows, completing the narrative arc. The director masterfully maintains this continuity through subtle details such as Mr. Elton's speech.
We gather here in the sight of God to join together this man and this woman in this time of man's great innocence. We gather here to join together this man and this woman in the time of man's great innocence.
His correction of the word innocence underscores Emma's initial imperfections, while his words at the end reflect her journey towards maturity and self-awareness. By the end of the movie, Emma has evolved, fulfilling her promise to remain with her father while also finding happiness in her marriage to Mr. Knightley. Their decision to stay at Hartfield encapsulates the delicate balance between change and consistency.
How could I ever leave him?
He can remove with you to Donwell.
You know he never would.
Then I shall come here.
You would quit the Abbey. Sacrifice your independence.
Yeah.
Live constantly with my father in no house of your own.
Yeah.
Autumn de Wilde's Emma is a visual and narrative delight that brilliantly reimagines Jane Austen's beloved novel. Through exquisite cinematography, vibrant costuming, and a masterful balance of humor and poignancy, the film invites viewers into a meticulously crafted world that feels both timeless and fresh. Beyond the narrative, Emma stands as a testament to the artistry of period filmmaking. The sumptuous visuals, intricate costumes, and perfectly tailored score create an immersive experience that resonates with contemporary audiences while honoring Austen's vision. Each frame is an amalgamation of color, symmetry, and emotion, making the film a stunning blend of beauty and heart. The movie beautifully explores the relationships that shape Emma Woodhouse, each teaching her profound lessons about love, humility, and self-growth. Her bond with Mr. Knightley is a testament to love rooted in honesty and accountability. He challenges her flaws while seeing her potential, showing that true love inspires growth, not blind adoration. With her father, Emma finds comfort and unconditional love. Her friendship with Harriet, though fraught with misunderstandings, ultimately reveals the power of forgiveness and valuing others as they are and not as we wish them to be. These connections remind us that the most meaningful relationships are those that help us grow while accepting us as we are. As Emma learns to embrace her vulnerability and authenticity, she transforms, proving to the viewers that love in all its forms is a journey of mutual growth and understanding, beautifully imperfect yet profoundly rewarding.
You are so used to live alone. You do not know the value of a companion.
I should like to see Emma in love, and in some doubt of a return.